All right, it's recording. Hey, everybody out there, YouTube land. This is Sam Dennehy, aka Halfass Customs, and this is Halfass Presents the podcast. Little PSA, public service announcement. The guests that we have, the guests in future podcasts, I'm going to pause my reaction so you can see what they're showing, because the way the settings are, that the podcast camera will view the person that's talking on the big screen. And if I start talking on top of them while they're showing you something, you won't be able to see what they're trying to show you. So I'm going to pause my reaction and let them show you what they're trying to show you, and then I'll react. So without further ado, tonight's special guest is Johnny, shoot, I can't even pronounce your last name, and I forgot to ask you that. Johnny
MacIntosh.
MacIntosh. I thought it was MacIntosh, but it was looking funny in my head, and I'm a horrible pronouncer of names. Like, I can see it and probably guess that's what it was, but I can't pronounce it. It's my brain's just retarded. I don't know.
Sam, if I was to pronounce your last name, it probably wouldn't turn out right either.
Exactly. My name is meant to look that way for some reason. I don't know why. Anyways, tonight's special guest is Johnny MacIntosh. Johnny, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in the hobby?
Well, when I started getting into this hobby, it was basically I went to the train show, or not a train show, a hobby shop. It's called Great Lakes Hobby and Train here in Michigan. And riders. We had a riders hobby shop. These two shops really inspired me, lots of trains and stuff like that. So I started getting into the HO trains and was collecting a lot of those. And as time went on, the vehicles that went with them, I thought, wow, they're really cool. They're not like your Hot Wheel cars or anything. They got details. And me being an auto guy, where I like anything automotive, it just kind of clicked, and I started getting out of the trains and into the hobby. I was about 16 years old when that started happening, and my first couple of vehicles I can actually remember. The first truck I had was a Boley International truck, and a Bush Dodge Caravan were the first two vehicles that I've got here. That kind of triggered it all for me to continue on into this hobby.
That's awesome, man. So you've been in it for quite a while. If you were 15 when you got into the vehicle side of this hobby.
Well, I was about 15 years old when I started collecting the trains.
Oh,
and
I got you.
But it was shortly after that I started collecting the vehicles with the trains. And, as time went on, I started collecting more vehicles than trains. And I think all I have is 2 rail cars and a locomotive that are like in the box, still stock. And then I have a couple other miscellaneous locomotives around, and a few rail cars that were custom weathered and stuff like that by friends that I didn't want to get rid of.
That's awesome. So that's pretty cool, because you got into it when you were young, and I think a lot of people probably got into it when they were young, but I think maybe when you get your first job and you're kind of somewhat independent to where you're making your own money, that's when maybe a lot of people get into it a lot bigger, a lot deeper than if they have to ask their parents for money all the time just to go buy this or buy that. And if they want you to, do something else with your life besides hobby trains, it's a lot harder for people to get into it when they're younger. But yeah, that's I got into models, not the trains, or not even the scale, back when I was 10. So that's pretty cool that and it was super hard to get models because my parents didn't want to spend the money to get that when they could spend it on other things. So that's really neat that you were able to get into it so young. And then you found, because you're an automotive guy, the path that you really kind of wanted to go down in this hobby, which is kind of what I did. I found the path that I wanted to go down, and I plunged in.
Well, I remember when you started in on the groups and everything like that, and I thought, wow, that is kind of neat. Somebody's doing a side that I don't think anybody really did, other than maybe just touched on a model here or a model there, and
That's exactly it.
you were just rolling them one right out after the other out of the shop, half-ass customs garage with cranking them out.
Yeah. Well, and that's so funny because I've said in other podcasts, I was like, that's my market. That's going to be my niche. People have dabbled into it. Chester Fleming and other people have just built one or two or maybe three, and then they did what, they built it and they're happy with it and they were done. They went to go build whatever they normally always build. But that's what I always built in other scales. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is perfect. I really don't have no competition. So I don't have somebody that's 100 years experience in putting my stuff to shame and saying, "No, you can't build." I was like, I'm the one that can say that if somebody else couldn't do it. Not that I would, but I had that that niche to say, this is all I'm doing, this is where I'm going, and this is all I want to focus on.
Well, that is one thing where it's just like, I was talking to a friend the other day and it's like, I remember that, and watching you, people weren't sure if you were actually producing, scale models, because they're like, well, that's
Right.
a Hot Wheels. And it's
Right.
like, well, Hot Wheels did make a 187 scale
Yeah,
version
that
of that.
was the very first post too, and I was talking to, I think, Richard Olson. I was like, that was the first post, that 55 Chevy panel that Hot Wheels made,
Yep.
and it ends up probably scaling out to like 180 a scale or something. But
Mm-hmm.
that was the closest. It was the first post, and I think maybe to date, still maybe not. It might have been the biggest thread, the biggest post comments wise, and arguments of going back and forth that group's ever had.
Well, the only good thing that come out of that, all that argumentative, uh, whatever, and controversy, was that you stuck with it. You
Oh
didn't
yeah,
just let it go. Oh well, screw this, and throw in the towel and leave. I still have that car somewhere. I don't know where I've packed it. Behind me is a bunch of drawers and everything like that, and it's somewhere in there. But the Edsel, I've got the pickup truck you did for me, and I've got a couple of your other builds too. But as time goes on and moving around and everything like that, stuff kind of got whatever, and it's like,
right.
I'm gonna have to send them back to Halfass Garage and have them customize it again.
Yeah, detailed up or
Right.
modernize them.
Right. Well, it's just, it's like, I've moved too many times, and during the moves, that's why I don't know if you saw a post a while back where I was trying to organize everything and put my cars actually in little bags, the loose cars that I have, because it doesn't matter how hard, how much I've tried, they'd always something break off of them, and then you got to try and
Yeah,
find that part. And it's like,
that
well, if it breaks off of them and it's in a bag, then the part don't go nowhere.
yeah, that's probably the biggest problem in this scale because it is so small. The parts are even smaller than the car themselves. If you
Mm-hmm.
do lose something, oh, good luck. Because who knows where it fell, who knows where it went. You're never going to find it again. I had that I don't know if you remember, I built a while ago that chopped VW Bug,
Yep.
and a headlight fell off, and I was like, I just took this to a show, so I don't know if it fell off on the table, like a model car show, and I put it in small scale. I don't know if it fell off on the table. I don't know if it fell off in the box that I was transporting it in. I don't know if it fell off in between. I picked it up. I don't know where it is. And it made me so mad because it's a Jordan headlight from a 32, and I didn't have any more of those headlights. So I couldn't
Right.
mimic the opposite side. And no kidding, I ended up finding it on the carpet, and I've got, I don't know, like I guess a medium carpet where it's not flat, but it's not like shag carpet. It's just somewhere.
Right.
So it's thick, and it could have easily fell in between there, but I found it, and I was like, how is that even possible? It was just dumb luck
Oh,
that I found that.
that's luck. That's luck. That was meant to
Right,
be.
right. So I found it, and I was just so mad that I lost it, because I was thinking even Lou doesn't always have the headlights, because it's such a small part to the
Right.
cast, and then they're so brittle that you may only get the headlight bezel, but not the bracket arm to go with it. And I was like, ah, but I found it, so I was really
Well,
happy.
that's good.
And then even like Pit Stop 87's photo etch parts, you take one of those shifters out, or you take a gas pedal and you drop it on your carpet, and you're like, there goes that piece. I'm
Yeah.
never finding that again.
I know exactly what you mean. If it falls and it goes somewhere else, I don't even look for it. I just,
Right.
oh, well, there's that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I totally understand what you're saying about, putting it in the bag so you don't lose the pieces, because they fall off all the time. And
Oh yeah.
I don't, I know in the model car world, like the 125th scale model car world, people can use certain glues to where their glues act like cement, and the pieces, you couldn't tear the piece off without breaking the whole entire car in pieces.
Right.
I don't use any glue like that. My glue is cheap dollar store super glue, or once in a great while I will use model car glue, but it's usually just cheap. I hate paying anything for my glue, so it's always like $1 for a 2-pack or something, and it sticks, but it's not really meant for travel. So
Right.
if you're moving all the time, chances
Yeah.
are something will fall off,
Well,
unfortunately.
that is like me. I do a little concoction of glue, different like plastic cement to help melt it down a little bit with a little bit of super glue rubbed in, and that usually is pretty good. The parts will still fall off, but they're not just gonna, oh, you touch it and it just
Right.
falls off.
Right. I do a
So,
lot of my bigger scale cars the same way. I just buy the cheapest glue because I just don't care. And then I've learned over the years how to manipulate that glue so it doesn't come out too much, or it doesn't run, or it doesn't frost on you, because super glue is notorious for frosting.
oh yeah,
And then if it does, I know how to fix that. So yeah, I've learned how to use a super glue, and that's kind of all I use.
right.
So
Well, with me, when it comes to glue and windows, super glue is a no. I don't use any super glue. I've fogged up too many windows on models that were like really nice, and then you
right.
fog up the windows and you go, son of a.
Yeah. There's no kidding, on a 125th scale group, one of the model car groups I'm in, somebody said, I think it's like easy off.
Hmm.
One of those, easy off or goof off or something, something like that product will take the frost off, but not hurt the plastic, not even hurt the paint. I haven't tried it,
That'd probably be
but
goof off, which is right here.
yeah, it could be
But I
that.
I'm not too I'm always one to experiment a little bit, but there's
Right,
sometimes I just am not
right.
brave enough to experiment.
Yeah, so no
But
kidding. I got years ago I got two of Sylvan's kits, and I had a I don't know, maybe like a 50 Chevy station wagon, and I painted it, and I painted two different brands of paint, so it naturally started cracking underneath the new paint. And I was like, crap, I need to strip the whole paint off. And before, this was the first resin car I stripped. I didn't know it. So in the old school model car days, you can just put the whole model car in brake fluid, like a bucket of brake fluid,
mhm.
and wait a couple days and it'll peel off all the paint. I thought, let me put the resin car in the same thing and see what happens. It doubled its size in a day, because like the
Oh,
resin just sucked in that motor oil or the brake fluid, and it made the car twice as big. I was like, holy crap. I just ruined like a $15 car for nothing.
I'm sorry, but that's one way to
Right.
you
Well,
know, most people are trying to shrink things down
no,
to the scale.
not
You're
make it
like, no,
bigger.
let me just blow it up.
Right. Well, the funny thing is being that it got so big with just the same amount of resin, it really deformed the whole car.
Oh,
It started like making everything so flimsy because it became so lighter, I guess, the material.
mhm.
I don't know how you would explain it, but it, no kidding, did shrink back. You just had to leave it sit out for like a week, don't touch it, and then it hardened, and it didn't harden perfect, but it did get harder, and it did shrink again. And so once it was all deformed still and at least back to the scale, I just used it as like a junkyard car
Right.
because it looked dented up already, so it was perfect.
Well, now you learned a way to make
Now I
junk
know never
vehicles.
to use brake fluid on resin.
That's good.
Right. So for anybody listening that don't know that trick, there you go. No brake fluid on resin.
Well, I know exactly where you're coming from, Sam. And you know, when I got into this hobby, I was mostly just collecting, and then I stumbled upon the 187 group, and oh my, let me tell you, young kid, wild imagination on the Vehicle 187 Club page. Yeah, my wheels were turning way too soon.
Right.
But the thing is I mean, I was seeing guys cutting up models, stretching models, doing all this stuff, and I'm going, how did they do that?
Right.
And you know, and the paint jobs on the models just were, you know, like, how did they do that? And then, you know, the detailing. Well, how'd they do that? So, you know, after enough of the collecting of vehicles, I was like, you know, I like the looks of my vehicles, but they could be better. And that page really was a big inspiration. And before I could even get to, let's say, talk to some of these modelers and stuff like that, all I had was the work that they shared on that
Right.
group.
Right.
And, you know, the thing is I do want to say that I tried the paints and I tried this, and I know exactly what you're talking about, where the paint cracked and all that. And behind me, this isn't anything special, Sam, but this car right here is the first car I successfully painted and
Oh wow.
detailed up. I'm not going to try and get it any closer because it's just, you know, but this is the first car. And the first car that I had the paint job not crack up on me or anything like that. Now, when I got to that, I was just ecstatic, you know, like, oh my gosh, here it is, you know. And then from there on, you know, it's just been, what can I do? How can I
Right.
make it better?
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I started when I was 10 doing regular size model cars, the 125th scale. And before I even knew what I was doing, I built the whole car, windows and all, and then decided to spray paint it. So it all was black, wheels, rims, every single part of that car was black. And I was like, I don't think this is the way I was supposed to do this because real cars don't look this way. So yeah, that was my very first model I ever painted. I decided to paint after it was completely built.
Well, Sam, before I got into the 187 hobby, I was a big collector of Hot Wheels and you know, 118 scale die-cast cars. I had a lot, you know, going on, and I tried building models. most of my models were all hand painted. So, you know, I'd tear
Right.
them all the parts off the sprues and then try building it. And while I'm building it, hand painting all the parts. And it was like, yeah, a lot of those went into the trash can.
Right.
Talk about those.
Yeah, well, mine was spray painted. So I didn't even have a chance to not get spray paint on the windows. It was just gonna happen anyways. And I did it straight on my driveway, no cardboard underneath. I just set it on the driveway and I painted it so there's a big, huge black mark around it with just the center of that model not having any paint on it. You still there? Well, everybody, I think we just lost Johnny. This is the first time this has happened. Uh, I don't know if he hit something or if he just lost connection. But how about I pause this and see what happened to him? Hold on, everybody.
Yeah, I hit decline on a message, and that was
Oh,
because I guess I thought that we were on the phone, so it wasn't going to let any calls in. But I guess my phone did, and then I just hit the button, and then next thing I know, it's like
oh
everything
wow.
down. I'm like, uh-oh.
Well, everybody, Johnny's back.
Guess who's
Yeah,
back?
I get like some of my interviews are an hour, some of them are like 2 hours, and I get just messages going across the top of the screen like crazy. I just don't even bother with them because I'm
Well, this
afraid of
one
doing the
just
same thing.
the whole screen. It was just like, what happened? Where's my video? Where's, so it was
Right.
like I was trying to clear that out of there, and it just like, nope. It went back to Messenger and all this stuff that where I was talking to you on, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. You can try that again, but don't.
I promise I won't, but no promise, because I don't know if other people won't call me.
Right. No, that's cool too. Like if you need a break, you can say, "Hey, I need to take this phone call," and I'll just pause the recording.
I didn't even know it was a phone call. It was
Oh,
just, it was like, oh, what's going on here?
right. So, anyways, back to this interview. Um, so I asked some people this. I don't ask everybody this. Um, what would you say your era of cars are? Like, what is your favorite era? Like, say, 50s era, present era, before, or do you even have one? Or is everything just what you like?
Well, Sam, I'm glad you asked that question. I don't have an error because there's so many wonderful modelers out there and what they do. Being a guy that you like automotive styling and you're into that, you know, everything speaks to you. Like some people say, music speaks to them. This is how vehicles speak. Each one of them has their story, and I tend to think about when you're looking at the real vehicles. Um, Somebody had to design that, and what were they going for? Because that design might have been inspired by who knows, like the Corvette Stingray. Maybe the guy that designed that saw Stingray Shark and was like, well, that'd be a cool name, and wanted to design the Stingray to represent that a little bit. Who knows? But
I know. I watched the documentary on that.
okay, well, maybe I shouldn't have brought that up.
No, it's all good. You're right, though. You're right. Everything
You
has
know,
a style, and everything has the opportunity to speak to you. So it
and
makes sense.
and being another thing is being that you can see them and enjoy them both shiny and brand new, and then you could go and find them rusted, neglected. That is just one of the things that I really enjoy is being able to see like somebody restored a 55 Chevy Bel Air. Here it is all pretty and beautiful, but I can go over here and see that same 55 Chevy Bel Air look how it does present day.
Right,
They've
and
got
still
it
see the
all.
beauty.
Yep, and still see, Mother Nature takes it and does whatever. So I don't have a time frame, but I'm glad that there are modelers that do base themselves in a certain time frame, like Chester Fesmeyer. He may rest in peace, but he captured a time frame that was really, every time he took a picture or something like that, I always said it's like you're stepping back in time
Right.
and actually seeing things how they were back then. Where then you got Mike Budd, and one of these days I'm going to convince Mike Budd to sell me one of his models. Just one of those ones that he has on the auto rack. He does really good jobs, but he's got them 70s down. I mean, he literally makes me feel like putting on the big bell bottom and rolling around with the big hair and all that stuff, because it's like you look at his town and you feel like you're in the 70s, and he's just got a model. It's a layout, and it's crazy.
Yeah, he does
And
great work.
and then there's other modelers out there where they just jaw dropping. What's his name? Tom Hart? Or you did an interview with him, and I was watching that. He did the tunnel tow truck and
Right,
stuff
yeah.
like that. Or the smashed up Crown Vic that he did. That
He's amazing for as young as
yeah.
he is to understand how to build that stuff.
Well, I'm going to tell you, don't tell him this, but I'm going to tell you right now, I wasn't as good as him at his age.
Oh, I don't think any of us were. Any of us.
When he posted some of those, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my.
Well, it's so funny because I literally stopped building 1/25th scale models after 20 years because I got burnt out because I didn't have the skills to pull off what I desired to do. Mm-hmm. And so I jumped into like Hot Wheels, and then I jumped into this scale, and then this scale, it didn't take nearly the amount of detailed skills as a bigger car did to pull off these smaller cars. You just had to have a know-how of, a little know-how to do what I do. And so I was just stuck in it. And then I just took a break about 2 months ago of 187 scale cars and jumped back into the model car, like the regular size model cars. Mm-hmm. I've got those skills now. I'm 40 years old, and I finally got the skills to do what I've always wanted to do after taking a break for like, I think it was like a 12-year break of 1/25th scale.
Well, I mean, how long have you been in the hobby? When I believe when you came around, it was about 2012, 2013 is when you come on to the Facebook scene,
right?
And
and that's literally when I started this scale, because I was in a bunch of Hot Wheels scale Facebook groups, and then I couldn't compete with them. There's millions of Hot Wheel customizers all over the world that does way better stuff than me, because they're $1 to $5 a car.
Oh yeah.
So it was so simple to get into, and then nobody was doing what I was doing in this scale. So I just, like I said, I dove right in, and I've been into it ever since. But it's so weird
you've
to
been
think.
Inspiring people to build too. You've been pioneering it, and people, I know I've seen a few people want to build their customs, and I'm pretty sure that it's Sam Demfrey or Halfass Custom, the man himself, that has put the little bug in their ear to get them to start, building.
I hope so. And honestly, I hoped that I could and would inspire some people to do that, because I know in this scale there was very little people even dabbled into it, and there was nobody going full board with it like I wanted to. And I have no desire really to build a stock car. I've done it plenty of times. A stock car doesn't seem finished to me. It doesn't have an appeal to leave it that way. I see it that it could look so much better. And so that's why I build, because I know I can make something have an attitude, have a look that doesn't, like if you just took a 1960s station wagon and put it all stock, I can make it look very pretty.
Hold on a second. You mean a 1960 station wagon, like this 61 I have, huh? How's that for stock for you there, Sam? That is stock. Only thing I did was custom paint it and detail it.
So
You
here's what's
would make
funny.
this look rad.
I did have one of those, and I think one of my son's friends stole it a while back, but I turned it into a gasser. I
See?
had I had I think it was like a dark orange base, and then I put metal flake orange scallops on the roof and on the hood, and then I put like in between the wheel wells, I put like a design in there that was the same color as the scallops, and I raked the front end up and dumped it back in and made a gasser out of that wagon.
I think I seen that one. If
It
it's
was
the
an
one
old
I'm
build.
thinking I am,
It
because
was the
that's a while
only
you're talking.
it was the only wagon, and I don't know what that wagon is. Some Mopar, Valiant wagon, I think it is, but it's the only Revell wagon I ever at the time that I had, and I knew I could make it look better than just stock or different.
Well, there's a little secret on this car right here. When you start kit bashing, you start trying to figure out these didn't have no interiors in them, and I did not like that. You know, I'm gonna do a custom paint job. I'm gonna make it look chrome, make it look like just a stock car. You know, but I want to be able to look into it and go, hey, there's a steering wheel and there's seats, and see if anybody else will catch that know the kit and go, well, that didn't come with it. Where'd you get them from? You know, so that I like to throw things in there here and there.
That's good though. That's awesome. Like that Etzo I built you. It didn't. I believe it probably came as a hardtop. Maybe it came as that convertible, but it didn't have the convertible boot, which is the leather piece that covers the convertible when it's down, and it didn't have a windshield frame, much less a windshield. So I was like, I know I can make this look cool. So that's why I made that wraparound, like custom 60s style windshield, the laid back wraparound.
I've got that Edsel still. Like I said, it's in these drawers behind me. But it's funny you say that, because on eBay I found that Edsel, and it was a convertible, and I was debating for the price. Do I buy that or do I not buy that? Do I buy that or do I not buy that? So I could taunt you and go, hey, you want deja vu again?
Right. Hey, by the way, I'm still waiting on that car hauler. So whenever
Yes.
you get a chance to send it, I'll build it.
I knew you were going to bring that up. I got really busy at the golf course this year. I just started to be able to dabble in it, but it's like between the COVID hitting and the stuff going on with the post office, I was like, I really don't want to send this to you now, because if this gets lost,
right,
then that's bad news.
Yeah. I always have that problem with sending stuff over to different countries, because if you add tracking all the way, that tracking costs more than the model, probably more than the customer paid for the model, and I really don't want to do that. So I say, listen, I've never lost a package yet, but I don't really want to put tracking on this because it's going to double the cost of the price that we've agreed on.
Well, Sam, this is your box that I've been kind of hesitant on sending you due to the fact that COVID started. And then I got going at the golf course and kind of forgot about it, because for a while there, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was actually out of this model room for quite a bit. That when I came back in, I was walking into cobwebs. Like,
Oh, wow.
so I felt like everything I knew I had was like a barn find. And it's like, and
Right.
there are things where I'll sit there and I'll be like, oh, I should go get this. Wait, hold on, let me check. And oh, I already got it. I didn't know. I don't even remember when I got this.
That's the biggest problem too, because these cars are so small, and you have the opportunity sometimes to buy in bulk of certain stuff. And when I mean bulk, I don't mean like a ton of them. You could literally buy 3 of the same car, have the intention to do stuff with it, and then put it away because you're doing other stuff. And then you see something else online, you buy that. You see something else, and you go to a train show, you go to a whatever, and then that thing that you originally bought, you end up finding months, years later. You're like, oh crap, when did I get this? I forgot I had this.
There's a couple builds that's behind my phone right now, that's going on. And it's like, one of those is that tow truck that I showed you, where I go, oh, that inspiration. I think I need to open up that box and just toss that in there and just say, here, have your way with it. Because I've kind of tried to figure out how to rake that front end, and I can't get it. And it's just like, maybe it's a good thing that I left that box here. Because
Right.
as I said, it was the COVID-19 when that started up this year, that right about I was going to get it out to you. And then this starts going, and I'm like, well, let me see, because, I don't want to be sending you something and then, they start playing games, because, in there's a couple models that I want you to customize as well. And, the thing is, like I said, you're going to do your way with them the way you want them. Just don't chop up the one truck, please. But
No, I think we'll be fine there.
but it's like, I do want to get you that, so that way because I know Halfass Custom and his ghouls down there at the garage will fix it up really sweet, and will probably make a lot of people go, hey, that's an eye catcher.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I see exactly what I want to do to that car hauler. I want to do a complete Art Deco look with big fat covered rear fenders and big fat covered fenders on the trailer, and slam it and make it look like just the awesomest car hauler that's ever been built in this scale. And I know we can be done, and I know it'll look good when it's done. We just got to get it.
That's, I just got to get it to you. And I'm sorry that I kind of kept you waiting, but
Good,
like
man.
I said, once I got back to work, I was so happy to go to work. It was just one hell of a year. We actually had a better year this year than last year, and here we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I'm working for a golf course, and we're having the best year we ever had.
That's crazy. But hey,
I was
cool,
busier than all sin. Like I said, I forgot about this place for a few months, and when I walked back in, it was just like Cobweb City, man.
Right. Well, I mean, I know with the COVID, it slowed my my customer builds down, because I send half of the cars out that I build to get lights put in them, and being that COVID hit, that company, East Coast Circuit, I think their business blew up, because for one, people couldn't work, or they could work from home, and they didn't have to physically go into a building and not be able to build. They could probably still build at home, or in between work or whatever. And I think their clientele base like jumped really high, because I sent stuff out there in maybe March, and I still haven't got it back.
Oh
But
boy.
they did update me. They did tell me that they're starting to work on it. So whenever they're done, it's whatever. But I mean, I know it's slowed down my customer stuff just because of that. But
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me. I've updated the customers and told them, so
Well,
it's
hey, as
whatever.
long
But
as they're happy, yeah, I guess everything's good, right?
that's all I can ask for. I mean, they're going to get the product one way or another. So I don't really, doesn't bother me, you know. And I mean, I told them in the beginning it's going to take about this long, and then COVID hit. It's going to take longer. So it is what it is.
Well, that's the thing is it's out of our hands. When what can you
Right.
do?
Right. Exactly.
But one thing, one thing that really sucked though was when it hit, I was already looking forward to getting back to work, and I tell you what, for a few weeks there, I couldn't think of anything to build. I couldn't think because all I had was work on my mind,
Yeah.
and it was just like, I got to get outside. I got to go do something. And they want me to stay home. I felt like I was in prison. I was like, I got to be outside.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got lucky because my company decided to have most of the employees that could work from home. Um, so I quickly figured out that without a supervisor over my shoulder and without me not having anything around me, meaning being at work, that I could have my keyboard here, my desktop or my monitor there, and a little space right in front of the keyboard to put my little cars and continue to build while I'm on the clock. So it's actually benefited me a lot to get paid to build what I want to build, not
Well, you
necessarily
better
what a
you
customer
better
wants.
watch what you say there, Sam. The boss man might be watching and come across this.
Nobody in my company knows I'm doing this, so they don't know anything really about me. So I don't care.
Right.
But yeah, it's been beneficial for me, and I never want to go back to that building ever. Being spoiled at home, having to wake up 5 minutes before I have to be to work, it's a blessing.
Yeah. And you know what? 5 minutes, 5 minutes before you have to be to work and only footsteps away from work.
Right. I'll tell you, the traffic can be horrible, especially when my feet don't want to work.
just as long as the bathroom ain't backed up, right?
Right. I mean, that 10 feet from my bed to my computer, whoo, it takes forever to get to work sometimes.
Sorry, it was a drive-in.
I felt like I had a hangover. I couldn't wake up and I was stumbling, running into everything in the dark. My headlights weren't working.
Oh boy.
But it's definitely been nice for me. And I would hope that some people out there had hopefully the same privilege of being able to do that as well. While others like you still have to like physically go out and go to work. I
well,
hope that some people had the same opportunity as me. So they, you know,
well, that's the thing is I work outside and it's in the open air and the weather was starting to turn nice and it's just like and they were saying no, you can't work, and it was just like, are you kidding me? The grass is growing. This is
right.
so I was like under a lot of stress,
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
thinking about this place, and it's like I'm working outside, and you're hardly, there's four of us that work in the shop,
Yeah.
and we're only in the shop when the machine breaks. We need to service the machine, or when we come in the morning to grab our machines.
Right.
So
Yeah, and it was weird because, right in the beginning, it was still a whole bunch of unknowns. So they didn't know that if you would be out in the open, that you really couldn't catch it. If you stayed 6 feet to 12 feet apart, out in complete sunlight or whatever, they still feared that anybody could probably catch it.
yep.
So that, I think, I think China knew so much more than we knew because they got it way before we did, that you would have thought that that information would have crossed the pond as well. But apparently, oh, we got this new virus that just hit us and we know nothing about it. People knew.
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject that we could
Right.
create a whole different video
Yeah.
about.
It's funny though, because as of late, within the last, I'd say month, maybe two at the most, a lot of, I won't say a lot, a handful of model car groups have started doing online contests.
Mm,
Like the same model car show you would go to in person, they had ordered the trophies earlier in the year, then the pandemic hit, they finally get them, no show. So now they're doing online stuff, kind of like I was doing with our Rat Rod build-offs. It
hmm
was online. Well, a lot of model car shows across the country just within the last month are starting to do that as well, so they can get rid of their inventory of trophies. And that's kind of nice because, we're still stuck without having much to do out there. No
Yeah,
conventions, no, major things that we would normally be able to do, no fairs or anything. So at least the online world is still able to allow you to join in on some of that stuff.
exactly. And like how we're doing right now, we're having an interview before. Interviews might have been in person, but now we can
Right.
do this over the airwaves and
Yeah.
still enjoy the hobby. Maybe not together, but together.
I was actually trying, I knew I was going to do this podcast before the pandemic. I just didn't know when. So it just helped that the pandemic hit, that it really pushed me to do it. Um, but I thought probably right in the beginning of the year, right after Springfield, that train show up there hit, that next year I'm going to have my phone and I'm going to do live video chats, like not like a live video chat, kind of like what we're doing, but more like I'll just record me interviewing the people that are at the show that are in our group.
Right.
Maybe like 5 minute, 10 minute little interviews of, hey, how's it going, and little stuff like that, so I can get a lot of them in, and maybe I can put a whole bunch of them together in like one video, like maybe 7 interviews, and it wouldn't go that long because it might be only 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and it'll
Right.
be as long as a regular podcast. It'll just be a special edition of it.
hmm
But yeah, now I'm not gonna go up to Springfield this next year. I think
Well, are they even going to have the show this
they
coming
haven't canceled
January?
it. They haven't canceled January show, and we're in
Oh, yeah, that's
we're in
right. The election's
October.
coming up too. So,
Right, right, right. So I know that Bob just sent a questionnaire out, like a poll of who wanted to actually sign up. Would it even be worth the club going to that show? And a lot of people were happy about going. And I think maybe if I lived a lot closer, if I could do it in a day, I would go there and come back and then go the next day, and then pack my crap up and go home. If I could get there within a few hours, I would do it. But being that
well,
I'm like 14 hours away, I'm not going to go up there.
being that I'm in Michigan, the thing is, I wish that the show would actually be a little closer. And then I guess that they have another show that they started at St. Louis or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
How
And
far is
it's
that from
like,
you?
I have no idea.
Oh, me neither.
But I guess it's somewhere west of me, southwest of me. And
Yeah,
I know Martin Ulig, he was telling me about it, and it's like it was supposed to be in July, but then
right.
this happened. So it was like, yeah, I guess, but that's still quite a ways. I wish that what they would do is almost like the NMRA, the national,
Hmm.
where they would pick a city within that state to hold that show,
Right.
and that is where they're going to go.
Yeah, if it hit every state, that way anybody in this country had an opportunity to go and
exactly,
participate if they wanted, if they were close enough.
exactly. And that's the thing is like, okay, you're over here on the East Coast. We're going to hit in Massachusetts, go to Springfield, Massachusetts, have their venue there. And then the people in those states may go to that show. And then, the following year, they might go to the West Coast. And the people over there on the West Coast that can't
Right.
get to that show could go to that show. But it would bring people from other states that might be a couple states down to
Yeah.
come to that show because it's only a couple hours away, not,
Right.
you know,
Well, honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't have the clout or the connections to even pull it off whatsoever. But I think there should be multiple meetups of our club at different train shows all across the country every year. That way, West Coast people in California have a show they can go to that they can meet other Californians or other Arizonas and Nevadas, whatever, all to go to one show. And then we got the Midwest already with St. Louis or the Midwest East or whatever you want to call it. But have maybe like 4 or 5 major locations throughout the country every single year that all you have to do is, maybe 5, 6 hour drive, but it's a good weekend, that you can get to and not like a 14-hour drive or further. I mean, think
right.
about Bob Johnson and then the Kellys and then Dan Goins. They live in Texas and they
Mm-hmm.
travel all the way to Massachusetts, which just seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
I
I
think,
wouldn't do that at all.
you said Bob Johnson that lives in Texas.
Hmm.
Well, I think Bob Johnson needs to find a venue down there because, that's
They
one state
actually
I would
did.
love to go.
Right, they actually did. So before, right after Massachusetts, um, and right before St. Louis, they found a venue in Texas at a train show they were going to do, but it got canceled because of COVID. So they did find one, which is great. It's awesome that they found one because now they have something closer for other people that don't want to drive so far away that might be in the club to go to as well. But with that, we need to find more. We need to find
Yeah.
more shows that people can go to, like maybe one in Florida or maybe one in Georgia. That way, people from South Florida can come up, and people from like Texas can maybe meet in the middle and go, and then keep the Massachusetts one, keep the St. Louis one, but have something up north where you're at. That way, it's
Well,
not so far
I
away.
was going to say they have that Train Fest show going on. I don't understand, but that's more like vendors, that
Right.
sell. But it's like, why not a show like that where, people from around the whole United States? I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, Alaskans, but, you're SOL. You're going to have to join the Canadians.
Right. And Hawaii the same way. Sorry, Hawaii, you're too far away.
Yep.
Have your own show
And
out there.
Hawaii, you can just have the ocean,
Yeah. But I think it would be great. I think, like I said, I have no clue how anybody would even do it. I guess just reach out to the people that throw on those shows and then have enough people that want to sign up to meet up, like have certain tables
Well,
laid out for the club. But you'd have to have multiple places instead of just 2 or 3.
well, Sam, there's a problem with that though. A lot of people think that the hobby's dying. You
Hobbies
know,
in general are dying. Well,
well,
they were dying before COVID. Slowly, but they were dying. No lie, my the local news channel said, I think 3 weeks after everybody had to stay home, they said, they gave percentages of different things, and they said the hobby world has risen 400% since COVID hit. And that's all hobbies. So they didn't generalize it, or they didn't break it
yeah.
down into anything. It's just hobbies in general. So thanks to COVID, it's waking up people's brains to say, hey, there's something else out there to do with your free time. And,
Well,
so hopefully it sticks that way. but
with a lot of those hobbies too, there's people where they're up, they stay up with the electronics and stuff like that. But what I wanted to point out was a lot of people want to say that this 187 hobby is dying, and to me, to a way it is, but in another aspect it's not, because if you look at our neighbors across the pond, you look at Germany, you look at some of the manufacturers that build that offer 187 scale models,
right.
you go, holy cow.
They're becoming a lot more.
And that's the one thing is, what I've realized is the knack that there's a market not being filled. There's not, okay, everybody, like you got your steam locomotives and your diesel locomotives from the 50s, the transition era. Well, these railroad companies are pushing locomotives, and they're producing newer locomotives, but they're still pushing these steam locomotives and diesel locomotives for the transition era, like you were talking about. What air do I do?
Mm.
And the thing is if we're in the world of technology right now, future modelers are not going to be stuck on the transition era or in the 1970s. They've grown up, they're the millennials. Okay, ooh, I'm a millennial because I fall in by 1 year. If I would have been born a year sooner, I wouldn't have been a millennial, but everybody's got to call me one. But, the thing is they don't have anything that entices these future modelers. We've got Chevy trucks from the 1980s. Ford's about the only model you can get where you could go through and almost pick models from every generation, from the 1950s all the way up till present day,
Right.
But even present day models are of 10, 12 years ago. But if you go over to Germany, or where Herpa and Bush, they make these model cars, and you look at their cars, not just with the classic cars that they offer, but they offer a wide range of modern, what would be foreign in our eyes, but domestic over there. They offer all of that, and
right.
That car lover that's growing up could now look at that hobby, see somebody, and why would they have so many, so many cars? Bush and Herpa offer 187 scale buildings and stuff like that for these locomotive, for layouts.
Yeah.
And they took off in the cars.
Right.
So they know that there's a market there.
Here's what's funny. I don't 100% know if it's because of what they offer doesn't entice kids, because I mean it might be, but I don't know if it is 100%. I just don't know. What I do know is I think the hobby has the great potential to completely die out within maybe the next 40 to 80, well, maybe 80 years, because the people that are in it now, most of the people building train layouts, and I'm going to say over 50%, have to be 40 years and older easily.
Oh, yeah.
Easily. There's nobody younger really building it. That the people that are building it that younger than that are probably 10%. So the people that are building it that are our age and older, most of the people that have done layouts are even older than us by at least 20 years. So they're going into their senior citizen years. And if they don't show the love of the hobby, like the true love that they have for the hobby to their kids, which is quite possible that they're not, because their kids don't want to have anything to do with it. It's just dad's toys or whatever. then their grandkids aren't going to be into it either. Because I think it's the parents' duty to convey the love for the hobby. That's how you understand it. Because in California, being a car guy that I am, classic cars are not even a hobby out there. It's a culture. It's a way of life.
Right.
And you don't know that unless you grow up in it. And being that the classic car mecca is Southern California, uh, that's how you know what it is. That's how you know how to live. You grow up in this culture, in this lifestyle of a certain, a genre of cars, and you grow up because your parents grew you up in it. So I
Mm-hmm.
think if the person that had the hobby uh, conveyed and pushed, and I wouldn't say push, but just involved the family, like, because it's a lifestyle out there, so the whole family's into the car scene out there for the most part. um if the hobby world could do the same, involve the family like a lot of the Europeans do. It's a whole family event to build a train layout in their attic or whatever. I think the hobby can continue to grow out here very easily, but they're not doing that. Our senior citizens that are completely been in a train since they were kids, most of their kids don't want anything to do with it, and most of the grandkids don't want anything to do with it because now they grew up in an age of electronics. So, putting your hands to a paintbrush and painting a car or building a model of any kind is just too slow and boring.
Well, Sam, um, I don't mean to cut you off, but see,
No, I was pretty much done.
the thing is if you go through each generation, like the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and the 50s, and the 60s, there's something that what the old timers would say, oh, that's not the way it's supposed to be. But the generation that's growing up in that time frame is like, we don't care, we're going to do what we want to do. I think the electronic age is going to stay around for a while.
Yeah.
But I don't think that, like, let's say you look at when I graduated high school, cell phones were not little mini handheld computers. Okay, I was lucky that I could play a game of Snake on my phone where it's just like, oh, yeah, and it ain't no color screen,
Right.
But, with these phones getting wherever, and the stuff that people can find on these phones, while you worry about your children going on and being on inappropriate places. But, it does open up the world a lot more, because look at before this whole handheld cell phone, whatever, I was on the computer looking up this and looking up models and truck stop models, looking for this and coming across links. And then I found the 187 Club group. As long as we've got people that are willing to put their minds together and work together and create a show, and it doesn't have to be, I don't think that there's going to be a lot more layout buildings, like, where you're going to sit there and let's build a layout. But I have noticed that people want to dabble in doing dioramas. What if I
Right.
built a diorama of that?
Yeah. I think that's mostly because a lot of people, probably half the country, live in apartments or townhomes and they don't have the room. So a little
Right.
diorama, they do have the room.
Right. So that doesn't mean that, when we're talking about layouts, you're right. Maybe the layouts is getting to the point to where, but this phase where everybody just wants to sit on their electronics all day and do nothing, well, they're going to have to grow up sometime. And when they do, they're going to have to figure out, what do I want to do? Because sitting on this phone ain't going to make me much money, So,
Well, maybe you could be a YouTuber that's like got millions and millions of followers. I don't think any of us are going to get that way, but
I can go to YouTube and hope for the best, but you know what? I'll probably get like 3 likes and 2 shares, and that's it.
Here's what's so funny about that very comment right there. I've got over 20 videos total done with my little histories of Halfass Customs and then the podcast. And I usually say at the end, or I have started, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. I get maybe 1 or 2 comments, and I only have like 1 or 2 likes. And there could have been 100 people that viewed this, 200 people that viewed it. Nobody's liking shit. They just listen to it, and then when it's over, they like shut their phone off and go away. I mean, I don't really care about that because, like, I hear within how many podcasts I've done, everybody says, I think you're doing a good job. I really enjoy listening to them, which is all I really want. I didn't do this just to get likes. I didn't get this to get 100 comments. I did it just for the simple fact, like, I don't know when we would have ever physically talked like we're doing besides typing messages and responses back on a message board,
Right.
So this was a great opportunity to see you in person, hear your voice, and get to know you, because I've said it plenty of times on the podcast. Nobody knows anybody that's on our message or on our Facebook groups when all we do is post a picture and then we put a text to that picture.
Yeah.
We don't know you. We just know, oh, you like this stuff. Cool. But this way, we're getting to know each other.
The profile picture might be of, who knows, a bad Santa Claus or whatever.
I mean, I've had the same profile pic since I started Facebook, and I don't ever plan on changing it, which is that black flowered skull.
That skull? Yep.
Yeah. That's the only picture I'm ever going to keep up there unless it decides to go away and I can't find it anymore.
Well, when I saw your name next to that picture, I'm like, who in the hell's this guy, and why the hell does he have Halfass's profile picture?
Right.
And then I realized, oh, it is Halfass.
Well, that's funny you say that, because I just got a Facebook memory reminder of my post on Facebook saying how disappointed I was that I had to use my name because I didn't want to. But Facebook made me change that because they thought I was a company. They said, you now need to make that a page and not a timeline. And I couldn't do nothing with the page. You can't follow people if you have a page. You can just post crap on there and respond to crap, but you can't do it like a timeline where you can just do a rant or you can just do whatever. You have very limited options with a page. I was like, I can't keep this. I mean, I have it still. I don't do nothing with it. But I was like, damn, how am I supposed to keep my name but not use my name so they don't think I'm a business? So, yeah.
Well, you're still half-assed to me, so.
Right, good. Well, and thanks to this podcast, it's reconfirming every time I introduce it.
Well.
Here's what's funny, though. Here's what's super funny. I've had that username, Halfass Customs, for probably 20 years. And 7 years, maybe less. A business in New York State, a car custom business, is using the name Halfass Customs. And I found them out and I emailed them and I said, and my email is halfasscustoms@yahoo.com. I have all the emails of Halfass Customs, everyone, Gmail, Yahoo, everything that, .org, .biz, whatever, I have it so nobody else would use it. And I emailed them and I said, hey, that's an interesting name you got there. Where'd you come up with that idea? And how long have you known about this name? And being that the email says it's come from me, Halfass Customs. And I said, I've been using that for the last, I think it was probably 14 or 15 years by that time. For that long, they never responded. I know they saw it though. Because I have everything. I've got the Twitter, which I never use because I don't care about Twitter. I've only recently started using Instagram, but it's all Halfass Custom. So I have everything but the .com. I never got the .com because I didn't want to have to pay for that. And I don't
Oh man,
own the domain. The
they
domain.
didn't want to open up their wallets. That's
Right.
why. That's
Yeah.
why they
And
didn't respond.
right. And I don't own that name neither. I didn't go to the patent, not the patent, but the domain name website to own it. But I've been thinking about, like, as soon as their .com subscription's up, I want to buy it real quick so they can't use it. But I don't
That's
care. I mean,
funny.
I never use this name. I never used it to become a business. I just used it as a handle, as a
Right.
username. So the fact that they can use the name and make money, it bothers me that they chose to use it, because I thought, oh, I picked a name nobody's ever going to use. Nobody's going to want that name. And then
Well,
somebody was just as dumb as me, created a business out of it.
well, they probably started their company because somebody was talking about Halfass Customs, the model builder, and they're like,
Maybe.
"Hey, I build real cars. Let's
Right.
see what this model builder could do to my."
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to up one you.
I mean, even the YouTube channel, I started a YouTube channel back maybe in the 2010s. It was called Halfass Customs.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that, and then I kept I kept forgetting the password to log into it, so I couldn't upload anything under it. And I'd go to change it, and it wouldn't work, and then I'd forget again, and then I just gave up on it. And then you can type in Halfass Customs. They got a whole bunch of damn custom car videos up under that username. So
Yep.
good for them.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. When I was doing some searching, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna, I don't know why, but I was like, Halfass Customs. I was trying to see what you posted to the 187 Vehicle Club, and it came up with that car group, and I was
Right.
like, so this is where he got his name from.
Yeah.
But just shrunk it down to 187
Right.
scale Customs.
Right. No, they copied me.
Them bastards. We
They
shall make
copied
them
me,
pay.
and instead of shrinking the cars like me, they made them full scale.
Yeah, they stuck a bunch of resin cars in some brake fluid,
Right.
blew them up.
Right. But yeah, I always a lot of times when I post like the movie cars that I've done, and I mention that the business Halfass Customs created this, I will usually say the original Halfass Customs.
Well,
But
what you
here's
need to do is you need to make a video, Sam, of a scale model. Walk around like how they would do their videos of showing off the real car. Take one of their cars that they did, build a scale model of that car,
right.
and then send it back to them and see if they realize that what they're looking at is a scale model of our car they really built.
Right, of the original Halfass Customs.
Original Halfass Customs presents to you your half-ass build.
Here's another funny thing. When I was looking up a name for the website or for this podcast, I wanted to use Halfass Customs, but their YouTube channel would constantly pull up because they got a lot more followers, a lot more videos. I was like, well, I can't use the same name because I would have to add on to it or something. So I was like, well, how about I use Halfass? Then I looked up Halfass, and there's a Halfass podcast. It's Halfass Podcast. I was like, well, shit, now somebody else has got that name. So I can't use Halfass Podcast. So that's what it was going to be called.
They're copying you, Sam. You should have copyrighted that when you come up with that name.
I really should have, but oh well, it's fine. But yeah, so I had to do Presents the Podcast, which sounds better anyways, I think. Sounds more professional. I don't know.
Yeah. Now we're moving from, people thinking that, yeah, if I watch this, it's just going to be a show on some half-ass guy,
Right.
But
Yeah, exactly. Like you couldn't look, I mean, besides the tags I add to every video to help navigate it through YouTube, if I didn't do that, you would never think that the title of this show or this podcast has anything to do with model cars, anything at all. So,
well, some of
I've
these
got to,
YouTubers, I wanted to say, you know what, you might get a bunch of likes and stuff like that. You might have to resort to my kind of way of thinking. Hold on a second. Meet Hammer. Oh, where is it? Meet Car.
right.
And that's all we need to do.
Yeah.
Sorry. I had to throw that in there. I didn't really smash that car.
That's one way to do it though. But yeah, I was like, it's whatever. I'll just create this. And when I first created it, I think the first 4, 5, 6 videos, you couldn't even type in Halfass Presents the podcast and it wouldn't even pull up as if this was a channel. I think YouTube took a while for it to resonate that, oh, this guy's going to keep uploading to this name. So we might need to now like register it in the data banks of YouTube or something. I don't know.
Right.
But either way, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to have different seasons. So what I'm hoping, like once I'm done with this, probably this year's worth of interviews, I'll then go back in the beginning or mid-beginning of next year and then restart the whole lineup again. And then obviously try and find new people too, but go through the whole lineup. Hey, would you like to do another interview? See where you're at now, see what you're up to today and whatnot. So being that we're doing this one, you'll be on the list of, doing another one.
Well,
in the future.
I don't mind talking models, just as long as it's not in the middle of summer when I'm busy.
Well, we'll shoot for a fall video then.
Yeah, a fall shoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just make sure you got the camera pointed right, so that way when I hit the ground, everybody can laugh.
Right. So I guess with that being said, because I guess we're just getting into fall for the most part with the temperature changing and the leaves changing and whatnot, have you had any chance at all to like even build anything, or literally you've been busy all summer so you haven't done nothing?
Sam, when I walked into a few weeks ago, when I walked into the model room, like I said, it was full of cobwebs. It was like refinding everything, so I haven't had much chance of building anything, but there is a few things that I would like to do over the winter time this year, such as finish this Ralph Ratcliffe, kit that I have that, comes with no instructions or anything like that. So, I'm just going off of what some pictures are, of other model builders that were kind enough to share that with me. I like to finish building this trailer. I was scratch building this. So I like to finish finish this trailer. I'd like to scratch build another one, but I know you've probably seen these trailers. They're you'll see them where they're hauling autos or trailers or whatnot. They might haul 2 or 3 cars. Or you might find them on the videos on YouTube where they flip over because somebody's
driving too quick
enough to have a big heavy Humvee sitting way above,
on the bed of the truck, pretty much. Yeah, I did see that one.
It was like heavy SUV way up in the air, and you're gonna drive around a curve like that. That's
Right.
just asking for that. But
Yeah. You would
anyways,
think, being a car hauler, he would have known.
well, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, this is not gonna go good.
Right.
I would like to finish this truck up. This truck actually was posted in the 187. It did get uploaded to the 187 club page, and as time went on and moves and stuff like that, the paint was starting to look bad. So I like to finish that. And there's I did get kind of back into collecting, so my drawers are full of stuff and whatnot. But I would like to do what's behind me as a shelf, and I'd kind of like to make that like a shelf layout diorama where it's the streets and buildings are built like how you would find on a layout, but yet
Right.
it's small enough to move, whatnot, and you can put stuff on it to display it and stuff like that. So it's basically a giant diorama, but
Yeah.
with base more like a layout.
That's what I want to do. So like, if you see back here, you see the movie module, and
Yep.
then right there is my garage
Yep.
module. That's pretty much how I want to do. I want to build separate modules with certain scenes on it that are all removable, but if you put it on a shelf along the wall, put them all together, it makes even a bigger scene. But they're all removable. That way you can take them to shows, or you can
Yeah.
fix them, or change them out, or whatever. But yeah, I find that to be easier than building something that's permanent in your house somewhere in a spare room or basement or an attic or something that is now stuck there because you built it so big you would literally have to tear everything apart just to move it or something.
Sadly, yes. That type of layout is kind of, it's such a shame because there's modelers here that I wish I could have got to know. But when you go somewhere, the families has a death in the family, and then they go, well, we got to get rid of his trains, and then they,
Right.
well, come look, and you look, and you're realizing this is a model builder that was before my time, and it sucks that I didn't get to meet them and see,
Yeah,
hear what their visions were.
exactly.
So I'll try and I'll look around and it's like, oh, I want that. Even if it's not the prettiest thing, that modeler tried to do that,
Hmm.
and they might have been based off of more trains and stuff like that. But a lot of these people, they end up getting tired of it, offing this stuff, and then chopping down the layout because, well, this is going to be my office, or
Yeah,
I need
right.
this for the kids' room, and it
Yeah.
gets chucked in the garbage. And if they, I found models literally in the garbage cans out at roads with chunks of layout, just tossed out. And it was like, slam on the brakes, hold
Yeah.
up, let's go through this guy's,
Right.
I'm sorry, but, if
Yeah,
that looks
it's
like
in the
an
trash.
HO scale,
I
I'm
might
in
need
that
it.
trash can.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's crazy, because there's a guy that's been on several. He seems to be like a new cast member in a sense of Ken Patterson's show, What's Neat This Week. I think his name is James. Maybe not James. It's not James Regier, but it's one of the newer guys. Um, and he's moved like 2 or 3 times and had to tear down his layout and rebuild it into each house he's moved into. And I can't even imagine the tear down on something that wasn't supposed to be probably torn down to begin with. It's crazy. I don't want to do that. So if I could just build little modules that I can just line up, then that's better, because those are meant to be moved and switched out.
I'm surprised that you have not been on Ken Patterson's show. Maybe you have been, but,
No, I've been on it twice, and then I've been mentioned on it. Or I've physically been there twice on the show,
oh, okay.
and then I've been mentioned in like when they talk about it, they'll B-roll footage of me, whatever, numerous times. So I've been on it.
Well, ain't you a lucky dog?
Only because I went to that St. Louis show. If I never went there, I'd have never been on that show. Probably wouldn't even know that show existed, to be honest with you.
Well, I truthfully, I wish I could actually meet Mike Budd and Ken Patterson. I think that, especially when he does the show and he's got all these models showing off. It's like,
Right.
Ken, that's a bad thing because you're making me drool over all these models that I want to know what they are. I don't care what you talk about. Just show those models.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
earlier this year, I did a Skype show with them where they had me on the TV, and I was talking about the Ghostbusters cars that I had just finished. So I guess I've been on a show like 3 times and then mentioned a few other times in that show.
Well, the thing is that show is really, really interesting. So, you get to see what's coming out and stuff like that. And that group of guys, like the guys that started the 187 Vehicle Club page. And then you got these guys right here, Ken Patterson, Mike Budd, and the other few. And they got their own thing going, their own niche. And it's just like, that is what's really cool. And Mike Budd being about open auto racks, Ken Patterson, he's into the trains and the automotive. He's into it all, and he's got, the one thing Ken does that just totally blows my doors away is he knows how to capture some pictures, man.
Well, that's how he started his
outside and
that's how he started in the modeling world. Is he I think he said he went to school to be a photographer. So he got the degree into that and was doing photography, and then with his passion of models, he was taking professional pictures, stuff that a lot of people weren't doing, and he was getting into all the magazines, and then the magazines hired him to do more photos, and then model companies were hiring him to build stuff. And I think what he was saying at one point in one of the shows is he's got a lot of model railroading magazine like shots, like not in the magazine, but like the first page, like the main page shot. A lot of those are his. I mean, not a ton of them, I don't think, but a lot of the front cover photos are from him.
I think that Walters, I'm not sure if Walters magazine had that or not, but I thought that a couple of his pictures showed up in Walters. But
they did. They did.
I know some of Mike Budd's work showed up in magazines and stuff like that. In fact, I think I was looking at Mike Budd's auto racks way before I ever knew of Mike Budd. And I always was like, I wish I knew who to talk to. And then Mike Budd comes onto the Facebook scene and it's like, hey, I got to talk to you.
I'm the guy that you're speaking of.
And that's the thing is it's, I don't really try to bug him too much, but every once in a while I'll try to see if I can poke him a little bit to see if he'll come off of one of his models. But
he's super cool. I'm sure you can get something from him. I've got a whole bunch of stuff over the years from him, so I don't know why he wouldn't.
He hooked me up, Sam. Now get this. He hooked me up with a resin cast, and I was like, hey, look, I put a transmission in my mom's car. It was a Buick station wagon, and I was like, it's this canary yellow with wood grain, so 1980s, it's just like, but it's cool. You think you could help me out? Well, he had the Chevy Impala or Caprice wagon. He goes, it ain't going to have the same front end. It's like, oh, that's okay. I'll rework it.
Yeah.
Well, I get the car and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, now I'm trying to be the Mike Budd in my mind and go, how would I look at this and restyle this front end and get it to look like that. And then next thing I know, my mom sells the car. I didn't
Wow.
even get started on it, and she sold
Right.
the car, and I'm like, having the real car to look at is one thing. Looking at
Yeah.
pictures is another thing. The real
Right.
car, you can see the details up close and personal, and you have to go get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought you were going to drive it and enjoy it.
That's so funny because somewhere or not, somewhere in the display case or the display cases behind me, I have a little 187 scale 63 Impala wagon that I got from Shapeways from Mad About Cars.
Right.
And I sent over pictures to Dave's Decals out in Missouri of a model car, 125th scale model car I built of my real car I
Yeah.
used to have.
Yep.
And I sent them side photos, and then I sent them an on top photo looking down of the model car because I don't have the real one no more. And I said, can you emulate these flames? Because I flamed out the whole wagon. And he said, I'll try. And he banged it out of the park. And now I've got a 187 scale and a 125th scale of the real version that I used to own. And I love it.
That's pretty cool. I actually think I've seen your little 187 scale model. I believe you posted it up once you got it done.
Oh yeah, I do that with all my models.
Yeah,
I flood the internet
I'm
with
like,
it.
I think I seen this, and you posted a side by side shot of the 125th with the
Yeah.
187. So
Right.
But yeah, that's that is pretty cool. Some of the technology that's out there, the 3D printing, Mad About Cars or Jan 3D, that's he's a really good guy too. I bought a Lincoln Town car because I've had several Lincoln Town cars, and I'm like, oh, I really gotta like this. Well, I worked on this again. Back to Mike Budd. Mike Budd, really cool guy on telling you how he did his 3D print. So I was trying to follow some of his techniques on that, and I got the car. Well, I got this 80s Ford truck, and I'm like, the Ford truck's almost 1/64 scale. Well, a while back, Jan came on, and he was online on Facebook, and I had mentioned this truck being out of scale, and he went out of his way to check that truck, and he got back to me and let me know that yes, that truck was in fact out of scale, and that he had fixed that truck to scale and wanted to send me another truck. And it's like,
nice.
you don't have to do that. I
Right.
appreciate that you went through and you even looked into that. He didn't tell me, he said he was going to look into it, but whatever, yeah, you're going to look into it, blah, blah, but for him to get back to me and say, yep, this was out of scale, the truck you had ordered. And it's like, I ordered this truck a while ago, but I didn't, it's Shapeways. I don't know how the hell to return this stuff. So it was like, I'm just SOL, but the fact that he's like, well, that's my models. And he took the initiative to actually listen to me and go and look, that just goes to show what kind of guy he is.
Yeah. Here's one neat thing. I'll be right back. Hold on. I'm going to show you something.
Okay.
So one of his designs, he did the Blues Brothers car.
Yep.
And when Shapeways printed it, it's a two-piece design. So you got the interior and chassis as one piece, and then just the body and this horn as the other piece.
Okay.
So when I go to take it apart to paint it, you may not be able to see it, but right in front of the rear wheel well, the body and chassis stuck together, and it broke a sliver off of the rear door. the back door. Now you can't see it because of it's just too small and it's painted, it's too dark or whatever.
Right.
But it stuck to the chassis part. And so I contacted Shapeways and I was like, your car broke in trying to take it apart. They say, this isn't a two-piece model. That's why it broke. I said, yes, it is a two-piece model. You don't build a 3D printed car with an interior you can see that you can't paint, you can't take apart. How would you paint the interior if it was one-piece model? And they said, this isn't a two-piece design. That's why it broke, sir. And I was like, well, it's broke. So what are you going to do about it? It broke because of your printer. So they said, well, how about just to reconcile, we'll send you a whole new car. And I was like, okay, because you can take the piece, the body off and keep the chassis and then just paint everything and put it right back on. And that sliver that's broken off of the body just pushes right back together on top of the body when you put the chassis back on. So it's not like any part of the car is missing, but it's just broke when you take it off and make it two pieces. So
Right.
the second one that comes, I see why it broke off. I diagnosed everything and looked at it, and they have the design set up to where like the rear seat sits too close to the interior door on one side. And so when it prints, I guess the heat of the printer or whatever just sticks the door panel to the seat, and that's where it breaks off at. So I just took a razor blade and started cutting inside to make it a clean cut so it wouldn't break the second time. But yeah, they sent me a whole new car, and now I have two of these for the price of one. And
I'll
then
buy
they don't
one.
even know that it's a two-piece model. I mean, seriously, the other one's already built. It looks just like this, except it doesn't have the ropes. But it has everything else. It has the windows and the paint and the decals. It's all done. It looks exactly the same way.
Favorite
And
movie of mine, John Belushi,
that's your favorite movie? Well, then, yeah, that car is for sale, and it's for sale to you. And I'll give you a great price on it since I got it for free. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool that they would try to reconcile their problem that they made.
Well, I didn't know that. And I wasn't going to go through all that, with the whole Shapeway deal. But I will say, I am amazed at how nice some of these 3D printers are starting to make the models. When I got
Oh yeah.
when I got the Lincoln, it was so grainy, so whatever. I'm just waiting for, Mad About Cars to come up with some of the better versions of the materials that are out there in these 3D printed cars.
I don't think it's up to him as much as it's up to them. So all these cars, even this Knight Rider car, it's a one-piece hollow car. This
Okay.
was made by Mad About Cars as well. You won't be able to see it too well, maybe if I shine the light better. I don't know. Maybe that just makes it worse. Who knows? It's the way it's printed is by the regular spool 3D printers. So you got like that spool of flood material that comes into the printer. They're all made that way. So they just got the top of the line versions of that. But what they need to do is print with the resin printer. That one will come out 100 times better. But I don't know that it's up to him how they get printed as much as it's up to them printing with the highest quality option they have is that version of the spool going into the printer instead of just putting a bed of liquid into this bowl and having the 3D resin printer printed out that way. Because like you can opt for the highest resolution of that print, which is the most expensive version, but still printed that same old way. They just have a better machine to do it on.
Right.
But they need to get the 3D version, or the resin version, and then the prints could come out even cleaner.
Speaking of that, what about Dana Stratton and them guys where, some of the cabs
they're doing it out of Yeah, they're doing it out of resin molds like Mike Buddy does.
They
So they're
are?
not doing a 3D. I might be wrong. I talked to Dana already, and that video's already up, and I forgot what he did. I know the old way.
I'm refreshing your memory, Sam.
Yeah, I have that card too. um, yeah, I don't. No, he does 3D print, but I don't know how he does it. I don't know. I've already forgot that. Everything we've talked about pretty much I forgot because my
Well,
memory's horrible.
I have a truck of his that actually when I bought it, he's like, well, it says Bobcat on the doors. Do you want me to take it off? No, leave it on. And that's why I was saying, if I could ever convince Mike Budd out of one of his models, it's not that I want the model as per se. I want to add his artwork to the collection of artwork I have, such as, I like building and stuff like that, but I like looking at other people's work that have inspired me through the years. And Mike Budd is one of my inspirations. And that's where it's like, you know what, if I just had a piece of his, but I do have Dana's work. And he showed his display case and he's like, it's getting full again. And I saw the truck in the display case with this horse trailer. And I'm like, hey, that's up my alley. I grew up around trucks like that. And I should know a thing or two about those kinds of trucks. And I don't have one in my collection. Well, he done it all up and everything like that. And it was just like, sweet, So
Yeah.
I got that from him, and I was checking out the horse trailer and all that and going, and the truck bed that it's all printed. And I'm like, I don't understand this. The 3D prints I got were grainy and whatnot. And these 3D prints that he worked on, they look beautiful. So is he using, what's he using? And then I heard people saying, oh, it's a resin 3D printer. And I'm like, how does that work?
Yeah, I've watched plenty of videos and I still don't understand the technology behind it. I've seen it in action working. I know what it's doing. I just don't know how it's doing it. Basically, it's just like a bathtub, a small bathtub. You pour the resin liquid in it. And then in that resin liquid, there's like lasers or something does something when the base goes down in it and it pulls up. It pulls up like this and it goes up slowly and slowly and slowly. And whatever those lasers or whatever it is inside the liquid, it's creating the design. So as it goes higher, the design's being built out of that resin. Well, I don't understand that process though. I see it working. I don't know how it works.
You hear Mike Budd, he talks about he'll make resin casts of his, he'll get a model and make a so you're like, all right, here's a mold, which by the way, I don't know how the hell to do. So don't ever ask me to cast you anything because I know nothing. I'm trying to figure out how to do the resin molds and all this stuff. And here this printer is just printing away and they're like, it's resin. And I'm like, but how does it like stay together as it's printing it? It just doesn't make sense because they take it out and they go, okay, I got to let it cool.
Right. Yeah, I don't get it either.
Get it to stick together.
I mean, I understand that it's working because I can see it working. I don't get the technology behind it. I don't really care to know neither. I just, as long as it does what I need it to do, good.
But there's some models that it's like, I'd be really interested in getting, but it's just how do you make a resin model out of basically thin air is what I don't understand.
Well, if I can get one of those printers and then they can dumb it down so I can use it, because I've got a 3D printer, the spool printer kind. I still don't understand how to use it. And Joseph Bolivins was out here trying to help me one day. And he understands it for the most part. I don't understand it at all. It's like all Japanese writing to me, even though it's all in English. I just don't get it. So I need it simpler enough to, you see the design on a computer screen, you take that design that you desire, you tab it, scroll it over to the printer icon, and then it prints what you want it to do. That's as easy as I need it to be, because anything else seems to just be beyond me.
That sounds just like me. If it's go through this hoop, it's like, well, hell,
Right.
trying to, all you do is click the link, and I'm clicking the link and it's not going. Need all this information.
See, that's why, like, even in the Zoom, normally the Zoom, you click that link that I send you, and then I think that link asks you to, do you want to join the meeting? You should just say yes, and that's it. I do the rest. But in your case, it wanted you to have that meeting number or whatever.
Yeah,
which you don't. That link's not supposed to need you to ask that.
Yeah,
it's supposed to just.
It says copy link, and it's like, okay, copy link, and then then you go to what, and it's like, no, I have the app for this, so why do I need to go to this?
I mean, the way I put these settings, or the way the settings were asked, I made them as simple as possible so anybody can do it, and that's as easy as it's supposed to be. You just click the link, it opens up, asks you if you want to join the meeting, you say yes, and done. But apparently, it's not that easy.
Well, I have an iPhone, so that answers all the product questions right there.
I guess. I don't know. I was talking to Junior Berg, and it took like three or 4 weeks for us to finally get the meeting or the interview going, because he didn't understand how to like download the app. So we had one of his kids come over to download it, and then another kid another week to show him how to use it. And then he contacted me, and we tested it one night, and then the next day we actually do the interview.
That's pretty
So
funny.
it took forever, but I mean, at least he did it, though. At least he was willing to do it. Some of the people I've reached out to, they don't want to do it. The technology is too much for them to understand, and they don't want to download the app. Because that's really all you should have to do, is download the app, and I do the rest.
Well, I downloaded the app, but in this case, it said, no, you need this, and
Right.
you need this, and, can we take an arm and a leg if we need it?
Well, I guess the only good thing on your end is you didn't have to pay for this app. If I found an app that everybody would have to pay for, I don't think I'd have any interviews going.
I hate to say it, Sam, but I think you're right on that one.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, as long as some people are willing to do it. I've got about the same amount of people that I've interviewed so far. I have the same amount of people that don't want to do it yet or don't want to do it at all.
Well, you just keep going, because you know what? After a while, they might go, you know what? You might be missing a subject that they know about, or they might get to a point to where they're like, this needs to be brought up, like some of the stuff
here's what's funny.
about.
I reached out to Daniel. Daniel? I think Daniel. Brian. Told you I'm bad with names. Brian Dugan, or starts with a D. I don't know what his last name is. Yep, that's him. That's all you had to say. I reached out to him months ago. He said, no, I'm not really into podcasts. I don't want anybody. I don't have nothing now. I don't want to do it. I'm like, that's cool. I don't want to pressure you. No problem. I just thought I'd offer. And then he's watching one of the podcasts, and he tells me his wife said, they're talking about all this stuff you do. You should do the podcast. So I reach out to him. And I said, hey, man, And I don't know any of this at this point. I said, hey, man, I really think you should do the podcast because I think your snowplows, I think your modeling, I think besides what you just post online, I think people would be interesting to know your thought process on it, where you're coming from with it and why you love it and all this other stuff. And he goes, my wife was watching the podcast with me and says, I think I should do it. So let's set something up. I was like, that's awesome.
Well,
It's so ironic that it happened that way.
Yeah.
So we still haven't done it, but I mean, we're going to do it hopefully soon.
And along the way, I know of Brian Donato's work, and he's been a pioneer too in the scale when he came into the scene, and just like the work he does is just like, that is just, I'm dreaming.
Definitely, he's definitely leading the snowplow world in this scale.
Oh,
I don't think anybody's ever built as many as him, and if they have, I don't know about them.
Or the different kinds, and and that's something too, where sometimes you're not into air, you might be into a certain thing. You got the custom car culture going on. Brian Donato, don't worry about the winter roads at all, because he'll have them all plowed.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Theodore. Once again, really bad with names. Theodore something. He does all the buses, all the passenger buses.
I know who you're talking about.
That's all he builds. And I have no interest in buses. They don't do nothing for me. But listening to his passion behind the stories behind why he builds what he builds, I wasn't bored at all. I was like enthused of why he has the passion and everything he had to do. Talk about him, just like Ryan Kelly, the Mr. Crane guy. I don't care about cranes to save my life, but his passion behind all that. We must have been talking for way over an hour, and I wasn't bored at one point of that whole interview because he knows everything about him. He has such a passion for it. So it really shows when you listen to it. And if you're not watching it, it shows.
That's another thing is, you think about how much time he sits there and puts into those cranes. I've got a couple cranes. And, they ain't complete.
Right. Yeah, I don't have any cranes. And in that interview, I said, you don't probably want me to build a crane because I'll build the most custom show-worthy crane ever made with some candy lowrider paint.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, I'll chrome out the wheels that make the tracks move. I'll chrome out the tracks probably.
In fact, you had him laughing too, like he'd actually wouldn't mind seeing that.
I'll get some like Hot Wheels wheels for the tracks to roll on. Custom chrome Hot Wheel wheels. Yeah, I'll chrome out the whole entire, what is it, a boom they call it or whatever?
Yep.
I'll chrome it out to where it's so shiny it'll blind you. I'll make it not usable, basically.
It's just a showpiece, people.
Right.
It's a showpiece.
It's just going from show to show, and that's it.
It's like your customized locomotive.
Right.
Show only, folks. No go.
Even the wheels are chrome, so you're not rolling them anywhere. You're just gonna put it on a track and then lift the whole track up with the train, move it to show.
Oh boy. Oh. Well,
but yeah, I was talking to Radisson about his military vehicles. I don't care about those neither. But he definitely cares. The passion behind it. He knows everything about them. It was so interesting to learn stuff that I never knew. And I didn't think I was going to care about. But listening to him talk, I started being very interested into what he was saying. And it amazed me. And that's the point of these interviews, is to get to know the people behind the models and to understand them.
Well, that's the thing is a lot of my models I sold over time. The models that I actually built ended up getting sold. So the few that I have, that's all that I have. But I do have a few pieces, and it's nice, but it doesn't show everything that I have done. From the big trucks to whatever. But I do have to give Andre Politers. See, I probably butchered his last name, but I do have to give him a big thank you because I built a truck and after a while regretted actually selling that truck. Let me pull it down here. Oh, if I don't drop it.
So you got it back, in other words?
I got it back, but the problem is I can't remember what he paid for this model. And, this is a model that I built. Shoot, when did I build this? My son was born. My oldest daughter was born. So it would have had to have been 2009 through 2013, somewhere within there. Okay. No, this was built before I lived where I lived down in the city. So it's going to be 2009 to 2011 is when I built that truck. And I called it the Little Red Pete. Well, I don't know what I charged him for it. And then he's like, well, when you think of a price, just, send me. I don't know what to put a value at my own work on because it was such after getting rid of some of the work that I have done, some of the things that I have actually accomplished, I kind of regretted getting rid of it because if I wanted to redo it again, I couldn't because I can't remember how I did it the first time.
Right. You would have to build it back to back in order to be able to replicate something like that.
And that's like Martin Ulig. I built a blue and blue. I called it the blue and blue fleet, and it was of a Ford LTL semi truck. And we went over it and whatnot. And under circumstances, I now have to redo that truck. But this is, the first one had a little hiccup. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. Well, I want to redo it again. And this is like my second chance, but it's like without that first one, I can't remember all the details that I put into it. And some of those details I had to custom hand make myself. And I'll be darned if I can't remember how I did it. And it's just like, oh, do I ever kick my butt for getting rid of that truck? Would have just been easier, build that truck, then build another one right next to it. And then there was that. Well, now I got to build it again. And here we are. And and that ain't no complaint. It's just me realizing that some of the things, like I had before River Point did their toolboxes, I had a truck that I made a custom built toolbox by hand, and it had an opening lid, and I had stuff inside the toolbox. Well, I got rid of that truck. Well, what the hell did I do that for? Because now I can't remember what my toolbox looked like, and it's like, I've done it, but I can't remember what it looks like. Now I'm regretting getting rid of it because I can't remake some of the stuff that I've made because I can't remember how I did it. But anyway, Sam, my battery on this phone obviously doesn't last too long, or else I could continue talking. So
it's all good, man.
It sent me a message stating I'm at 10%. So I'm gonna probably
get this going
off here before we go black again. So and blank.
Well, then I'll end the podcast. If you want to stay on for like just one more minute after I end it, we'll just do a farewell. But anyways, everybody watching or listening, this is Sam Dennehy. This has been Johnny MacIntosh. Hope you guys like the podcast. If you do, please like, please subscribe, please comment if you liked it or if you didn't like it. I don't care. You can do whatever you want. I don't really care. But anyways, this podcast is over. Let's get this ended. Stop recording.